Today, I am building the tallest buildings in the United States in Minecraft. I've built my fair share of skyscrapers before, but in this video, I employ a few new techniques that make the builds much better than before. Coming in at spot number 8 is the Empire State Building. This is the one and only Art Deco building on this list, and one of the 2 buildings built before the year 2010. Something you may have noticed in my previous videos is not including an interior and just adding concrete directly behind windows. It kind of works for this building, but as you will see, starting on the next building, I use a completely different technique, and in my opinion, it's a huge improvement. By the way, if there's another country you want to see me cover, leave a comment down below. As for detailing the Empire State Building, I used all the different types of sandstone and mangrove wood as well. The repeating pattern of the windows made building this quite easy, and the only real difficult parts are the roof and spire. For the top of the Empire State Building, I had to get creative with stairs and slabs, as well as using quartz and stained glass to give a reflective look to the spire. The use of stairs and slabs add much needed detail to the walls near the top of the building, and this building actually is already higher than the default Minecraft height limit. The next building is 30 Hudson Yards. Built in 2019 and standing at 387 meters tall, this building is one of the newer high-rises built in New York City. The ground floor took me quite a while to get right, but using stone and deep slate turned out to be the right combination. Here you can see the new technique I used for the windows. I used light gray stained glass panes vertically and 2 layers of glass blocks and panes of varying color to add detail. With the outline done, filling in the glass was pretty easy, especially with the help of World Edit and Axiom. I wasn't sure if I'd like the way this building turned out as I was building, but it ended up being amazing. The roof is extremely unique, and the balcony is super fun to build as well. As you can see, the glass facade looks so much better than in my previous videos, and I didn't fully furnish the building, but I included floors, so that could be a possibility. Overall, I'm extremely happy with how this build turned out, and it is one of my favorite builds in this entire video. The next building on this list is 432 Park Avenue. Standing at 425 meters tall, this is another new skyscraper in New York City. The actual skyscraper is only 6 windows wide, but it is impossible to build this while keeping the width accurate, so I had to build it 7 windows wide. I spent more time on the roof of this build than the rest of it, because otherwise it literally would have taken me only a few minutes to finish it. Detailing the roof was surprisingly fun, and I got to use several unconventional blocks like moss and daylight sensors to finish it. For as simple of a skyscraper as it is, I'm really happy with how it turned out, and I think it has its own charm to it as well. This next skyscraper took nearly as long as every other build on this list combined. One Vanderbilt is a 73-story skyscraper located in New York City, standing at 427 meters tall. Unlike every other build, the ground floor was the easiest part of this skyscraper to make. The unique geometry made it a bit difficult but super fun at the same time. However, what really made this build hard were the angles and contours of the glass facade. The skyscraper isn't symmetrical, so I couldn't make a section to copy and paste, and the angles of the glass made me have to fill in the glass manually. I couldn't find any exact measurements online, so I had to mostly eyeball the shape too. However, this was one of the most gratifying builds to finish, and I don't even think it looks that great, but just the arduous journey I had to go through to make it makes it worth it. The lack of a repeating pattern really did make this build difficult, but I'm happy with how it turned out, and I think it looks great similarly to 30 Hudson Yards. The next build is another super thin, tall skyscraper in New York City. 111 West 57th Street is a 435 meter tall skyscraper. This build was a nice relaxing break after one Vanderbilt, but it's also one of my favorites because of how I was able to recreate the color of the glass on the front facade. These super skinny skyscrapers might not be everyone's cup of tea, but they're definitely growing on me after I finished building them. However, a much cooler design was of the Sears Tower. Unfortunately, the replay recording of this building broke, as you can see here. It kinda just stopped working halfway through. This hasn't happened to me before, I really don't know why. So here's my recording of building the Sears Tower in my previous video. The 2 Sears Towers I built in each video were more or less the same, and I decided not to use my new glass technique because of how well the black concrete and stained glass works with the Sears Tower. This will always be one of my favorite skyscrapers of all time and definitely one of my favorite skyscrapers to build in Minecraft. This building is 442 meters tall, and if you were to include the antennas, it would be just barely shy of One World Trade Center and be the second tallest building in the United States. The easy geometry and shape of this build makes it super easy to make, and the only real difficult parts are the ground floor and spire, which is pretty common with building skyscrapers. If you've made it this far into the video, please consider leaving a like or subscribing. It really does help out a ton and motivates me to make better and more frequent content. I am always in love with how good the spire of this skyscraper looks, especially from afar, and looking up from ground floor, it really does look exactly like the real thing. The penultimate build of this video is one I thought I'd dislike, but is actually one of my favorites now. Central Park Tower is a 472 meter tall skyscraper located in New York City and is primarily residential. Unlike 432 Park Avenue and 111 West 57th Street, this build is actually pretty unique with its cantilever and interesting geometry. It actually has the highest roof out of any building outside of Asia, but it's only the second tallest building in the United States. I think out of every single build in this video, the new glass facade is the most impressive on this build, second to the final build of the video. This skyscraper is pretty easy to make, especially since most of the building could be used as a reference for other parts of it, and I used the same glass colors as 30 Hudson Yards and 1 Vanderbilt with some added white concrete. This building also seemed to lag out my computer because while making the replay mods for this and the next building, I was literally at 4 or 5 frames per second the entire time, and rendering them took more than 5 times as long as every other build in this video. I really don't know why. It might be all the glass I used, but yeah. Finally, the tallest building in the United States, One World Trade Center. Standing at 546 meters tall, this is now an icon of the New York City skyline. I've built this building before, but as you can see, yeah, it was pretty terrible, and the concrete directly behind the glass was extremely unrealistic. So, for this attempt, I employed my new experience and techniques to make my favorite, and in my opinion, most impressive build of the video. And trust me, this is at least 10 times better than my previous attempt. I had to build quite a bit of it manually, but compared to 1 Vanderbilt, this was light work. I really cannot express how much better this looks than my last attempt. I also added a mini version inside of the building so you couldn't see directly through, but it still had the effect of floors being visible from the outside. I also spent longer detailing the roof of the build, and I went through a few different iterations of block palette and design. I think now you can see why this was so much better than my last attempt. Now here is a showcase of all of the builds.